Good morning and thank you for coming. My name is Reverend.
All
right. Good morning and thank you for coming. My name is Reverend Stephen Tillett and I serve as the president of the Anne Arundel County branch NAACP. I'm grateful for the media who have responded to our call for justice for Kathy and have come to our press conference this morning. To lay the foundation for our time together today, let me reiterate and expand upon some of the facts of the case laid out in the press release that you received. On May 5th or 6th, 2012, Ms. Katherine Morris died. Her body was found in her car right here in the overflow parking lot to the Arundel Mills shopping center and on the campus of the Anne Arundel Community College. This parking lot serves as the overflow for them. The mode of her death was carbon monoxide poisoning from a charcoal grill lit in her car. The means of her death was ruled a suicide by the Office of the Medical Examiner. At the time of her death, Katherine was a 22-year-old college senior at the University of Maryland. Katherine was also the victim of marriage fraud by U.S. Army Specialist Isaac Goodwin. He married Katherine so he could attain additional income through a housing allowance. The allowance should have come to Katherine, but he pocketed the money until forced by the military to have the money paid to her as appropriate. She received only 3 partial payments before her death. The day before Katherine's death, she confronted her husband, who was at that time stationed in Afghanistan. And she confronted him with proof of his infidelity with another member of the U.S. Army, Sergeant Latoya King, and several other women. On May 4th, 2012, she threatened to report his infidelity to his supervisor. 2 days later, her body was found stretched out in a car right here. We regard the immediacy of her death after threatening to report Goodwin to his chain of command as very suspicious. There was absolutely a motive for her to die in this situation, and there is a possibility that her suicide could have been staged. Her alleged suicide could have been staged. Upon being notified of her death, the Army allowed Goodwin to come back to the United States from Afghanistan for his wife's funeral, a service he never attended. But he did stop by the funeral home to obtain a copy of her death certificate, after first making sure that he would not encounter Katherine's parents there. He then submitted to Prudential Financial Incorporated a claim for a $100,000 payment for the life insurance policy he took out without Katherine's knowledge. How convenient for him. Before stepping aside so you can hear from Kathy's mom, Reverend Marguerite Morris, let me lay out some of the areas of unresolved concern. Ms. Morris's death was ruled a suicide so quickly that no thorough investigation had been conducted concerning these persons of interest who had motive and opportunity to harm Katherine. There's been no research into their phone records, the GPS positioning of their phones that evening, or the text transmissions before, during, and after the time when Katherine died. The family only received an abbreviated version of the film footage taken on this parking lot from the time she allegedly pulled into the parking lot at around 6 p.m. on May 5th until her body was discovered by a mall security guard at around 5 a.m. on May 6th. They were shown partial footage up until about midnight or so, when the campus security police stated that their motion-sensitive cameras detected no motion in or around her car. In spite of this overflow lot for the theater being packed with cars for the movie showing at the theater right across the lot. Further, they have stated that their film came from 2 cameras in this lot. Forgive me, I'm not wearing my glasses, and so from 2 cameras in this lot, when indeed there are 4 cameras that are in this area that possibly could have picked up footage. And in fact, one of the cameras that was not referenced is one that's right through here that is directly pointing at this spot. In as much as it was early May, the trees that you see, which probably were not as high 3 years ago, would not have been in full leaf, so the cameras directly ahead of us should have picked up and detected some things going on if there were things here and if there was activity happening that would trigger the motion sensors. Finally, and most concerning, since this was a potential crime scene, one would think a copy of all the video footage would have been saved and preserved. The family was only shown partial footage up until around midnight, and the rest of the footage seems to have been lost as the result of an undetermined technical error or mistake made by the campus police. A key area that is very concerning to the family of Katherine Morris is that while it was alleged that she pulled into the parking lot and was never seen exiting her vehicle, and that her cell phone was found in the car with her body, that GPS records of her phone's movements seem to show her phone in motion as many as several miles away from this parking lot up until an hour or two before her body was found. Putting it bluntly, how can the phone of a dead woman found in the car with her body be moving up until a couple of hours before her body is discovered? On this point, there are two differing opinions that have been rendered by two professed experts on this subject. The expert for the police says the phone was stationary and bouncing off of towers in a 7,000 square foot radius. The other technical expert, secured by Reverend Morris, steadfastly maintains that the phone was absolutely on the move until an hour or two before Katherine's body was discovered. In order for the family to have closure in this matter, knowing that there has been no stone left unturned, investigating all of the circumstances surrounding the death of their beloved Katherine Morris, we are requesting that an independent investigation be conducted by an outside agency, ideally the United States Department of Justice, to reach a final conclusion on these matters of concern, to determine whether Katherine's civil rights may have been violated, and whether or not persons with motive and opportunity have gotten away with murder. We don't know, but we very much want a definitive answer, and will accept the findings of an independent investigation conducted by persons and departments other than those originally involved with this case. It is now with respect and admiration for the tremendous job of research and investigation that she has done that I now step aside and invite Reverend Marguerite Morris to come forward and share her statement with you, and after that we will entertain some questions.
Thank you, Reverend. I want to thank everyone that's come here today to support the family and the media as well. My name is Marguerite Morris, and again, my family and myself, I thank you for being here. I thank Reverend Tiller for his gracious covering of a number of the points that we've been concerned with. I just want to state that for 3 years we've been fighting these battles for answers in reference to the death of Katherine Morris. There have been two cited previous reinvestigations, there have been many inconsistencies. And at times there have been as many as 30 inconsistencies that have been named by persons outside of the Anne Arundel County Police Force. We also want to say that with the video footage, one of the persons that viewed that video footage and states on the record that Katherine never arrived at the vehicle is Chief Gary Lyles, a retired Anne Arundel County police officer. We're standing here today simply because we want answers. We've been told several times so many things that have been inconsistent. Several times we've asked for things in writing. Several times we've met with individuals with the NAACP and the police department over the last 3 years, and we've just not gotten answers that are satisfactory to anyone. We believe that this does call for an outside agency to take a look into the circumstances surrounding Kathy's death. We do know that motive was established. We do know that we have experts outside of the Anne Arundel County Police Department, even other officers with other counties, retired officers that do not agree with those findings at all. They do agree that there are a number of inconsistencies that do that did not perhaps follow standard operating procedure in an investigation. If I were to say, and I want to bring it, not be too scattered in this as I've been instructed to do, one of the alarming things was that when her car was found, reportedly that there were no fingerprints at that time, to our understanding, viable fingerprints. And it's been 3 years. And we would have thought that that would have been an alarming point right there. We do know that a security guard that came upon her vehicle 3 years ago in this parking lot, that by his own testimony, sworn testimony, he was what we're calling, as a family, all over the car. He touched several doors, he touched the keys, he was in the trunk of the car by his own admissions. He was searching the trunk of her car, and he took photos of the deceased. He'd only been on the job 2 weeks. We don't know what that means. Well, these are certainly things that need to be followed up on and looked at. We believe as a family that we have been asking the Anne Arundel County Police to police themselves. In other words, it's kind of asking you to find problems with yourself. And the only way that we're going to be able to let my daughter rest is to get the answer, get someone else outside of the department, outside of the county, to take a look at it and give us an opinion from that point. We do know that most of the information that we have actually comes from the documents. It comes from the files that we were given, the film footage itself, which was in pieces. We do know that the records show that the college blames the police are blaming the college for what happened with that footage. We do know that even on the military piece, that the military, according to the documents, stood ready. The individuals of interest, the military had read them their rights, confiscated their electronics that belonged to the United States government, and they stood ready to move on those individuals. They'd also given them a no-contact order. And it was the Anne Arundel County Police, for whatever reasons, that informed the military police that none of that was needed. So we can see that there may have been errors in judgment, perhaps. We don't know. We do need for others to look up this. At this point, we can say definitively that what happened to our Kathy, we just need as a family, and in the light of challenges that before our nation right now, to date, that we desire a proper and unbiased investigation, that it take place. We owe this to the young girl that died on the spot. We owe it to our daughter and the daughters of others. And we know that if it were someone else's daughter, they would want the same thing. And we owe her that much. Yes, outside investigative experts or assistance has been received. 2020, we know, is shooting a documentary and have made inquiries. Fight Fraud America has made inquiries and done their own investigative piece. We know that there's a forensics experts company in Las Vegas, Nevada, that we flew there. And they themselves have ran the forensics extractions on her cell phone, her iPod, and her computer. We know that when they did that extraction, we did not know what was going to be found, but they filmed that extraction. And that's what gave us the clues that the GPS settings that are in the records all along that show that there was quite possibly movement of that phone, and that phone was not where it was supposed to be. These individuals have there's a number of contradictions and circumstances. We can't name them all today, but they certainly are available for anyone that would like to read about them or look at them and form their own opinions. There's enough, our information comes from the data, the files, the sworn depositions of other individuals. It is not just coming out of the air. We do have documentation for everything that's being said today. Again, these things are available for the public to read. They can go out on our Facebook and look into that. We're here to answer questions as well.
Why do you think the Anne Arundel County Police would engage essentially in a cover-up, which is what you're alleging?
I believe that at that time, because I'm not sure, this is just me talking, I am not sure if Anne Arundel County Police themselves have revisited the spot since my daughter's passing. I believe, in my opinion, that the security guard, it's just my opinion, may have botched things here, and because they rushed to the suicide belief, and I want to say that belief came from them sitting here in this parking lot according to the documents, and they Googled the method of death, and that's what the records show. And I'm just believing that mistakes were made early on, and perhaps someone viewed that young man that has only been on the security force for about 2 weeks, his taking pictures, his being out here and tampering with the scene. And they said, man, don't worry about it. It's just a suicide. And I'm thinking that may have been where it started, and it just kind of mushroomed when the family began to push and didn't quite accept that. And also the fact that all of our allegations and the information that we've gotten has since been discovered. They didn't know that when they found the body back in 2012. They did not know that.
So the case has been revisited again and again, according to the Anne Arundel County Police. I understand Chief Davis came and met with you at your home. We've spoken on the phone. This is a tough question. Is it possible that a mother's love blinds you to the possibilities?
Let me respond to that.
I didn't say father's love.
I understand. The level of intelligent, comprehensive investigation that has been done by Reverend Morris and her team belies just an emotional response by a distraught mother. She has very meticulously pursued information, sought out experts, and has said repeatedly, whatever the results show, I'll have to make my peace with it and accept it. So this is not just grief speaking, but there has been a process, and in fact some of the things that she has discovered that the police have looked into. But as I said in my statement, at this point there are differing opinions with respect to the GPS and the phone. One expert says, well, all of the pings were in the general area, the phone didn't move. Another expert says the phone was absolutely moving. And maybe we need a tiebreaker in that, which would be thus the independent investigation. But if the phone was moving, that's a problem, because they found the phone here on this spot in the car with the body at 5 a.m. If the phone is going up and down the road at 1, 2, 3 a.m., that's a problem.
From the time I had to
what has this done to you? I said a father's love. I know you lost your
Well, I want to add to what he just said. There were supposedly two, my opinion only. The first reinvestigation, we felt there were a number of conflicts of interest because her father was now deceased. We asked that certain people that were part of the original investigation not be involved. And we thought that first so-called reinvestigation, he was heavily involved. So that was a serious conflict of interest. The second, with the homicide panel, per freedom of information request, we're not sure, and some of the media support that panel ever actually reviewed anything. As well as the NAACP at the last press conference had requested that an independent person be appointed to the panel, and they never were. So we've asked for minutes, we've requested it, and also in reference to Chief Davis. Chief Davis visited the family at her home in St. Mary's County. He made several statements to us. He acknowledged to the family that they had made mistakes. He acknowledged that they had made certain changes within the police department to ensure that this did not happen again. And quite simply, the family asked, we appreciated his apology, we asked for it to be in writing, and we've not received anything since. And that's usually where it's gone wrong. Anytime we ask for something in writing, we've not gotten something in
What
writing.
has the impact of this been? I have a child who's
The impact is because it's continuous. And you can't let it go until the answers. You have people around you that are asking the questions. It's not me. They want answers to the questions. And it is me, but it's been very, very difficult. But it's very encouraging to know that these individuals are supporting us. It's very encouraging to know that you came here to hear us. And that's a great encouragement that continues to help us to push on.
Reverend Morris, was there a note of any kind that your daughter left? I thought I had read that in original reports.
Yes, there was a note. The thoughts there are two different thoughts, as he said. One of the thoughts is that she may not have written that note because we don't know definitively where the phone was. So that's one of the challenges that's with the investigation, determining where that phone was so we can ensure that she wrote the note. So yes, there was a note.
Just, unless you have it with you, briefly, what did it say? What did it tell you?
Part of what, I'm sorry. The the note said somewhat, none of the notes
This was
were handwritten.
electronic.
That's the thing. None of the notes were handwritten. They were all on electronic media. And the question is, even with physical, was she able to, supposedly she had taken sleeping pills. And the question from the other experts are how would she have been lucid enough to be sending text messages, because the method of death does that very quickly. And that's part of the discrepancy. How could she have sent those messages and have taken medication?
Have you got any reply from Justice?
No, not at this time.
That's
We
in
have to make a
process.
formal.
You haven't done that yet?
It is at the Department of Justice. I can't comment on who's seen it, what's going on. We'll leave that to the experts.
I'm sorry, you said you made the request, you just haven't heard back?
It has been sent out. I cannot comment on where it is, what's going on with it. Anybody's even looked at it. We'll leave that up to Veteran Terrence Assistance and the agency to help us with that.
And we also have assistance from Congressman Elijah Cummings, who has said that he will provide a push for them to make this investigation. He needs a formal letter from me. I'm going to get that done today and get it to his staff, and then that will proceed.
What
would
about
she-
this girl just doesn't allow you, your daughter, to believe that she would do this?
Because of the number of inconsistencies. Anytime I want to just say, okay, when I think about the fact there's a camera there, and the only footage they gave us were pieces of footage, that if I were unlearned and were watching that video, I would have thought it was the footage. They first told us it was incompatible. This is what they did. They told her and her dad that it was incompatible with systems, is why it wouldn't play. Then they told us it was motion sensitive. If you look at the pieces that we have, there are hundreds of cars, so there had to be some kind of motion. And her dad and I visited this spot one day, and an officer pulled up as before you got here, they saw us on footage. And we asked, is that a camera? And at that time in 2012, the officer said, we can't tell you that, but we believe there is. And just about a month or so ago, Fight Fraud America flew in, and we traveled the GPS route and came here, and an officer walked out and confirmed there is a camera there that would have caught certainly what was going on in this area. And we saw from all 4 cameras, there is no footage from May the 6th. Footage that's captured is May the 5th and in pieces. There was no footage from May the 6th.
Aside from these investigative things, you don't believe she would have done it. Is that true?
I have to accept what it is, but I need for them to look at these major inconsistencies so I can accept if that's what my daughter did.
Is there any reason why she would have been here in this parking spot, right? She was taking classes at the University of Maryland.
A search of her records, again, this is all from information and extraction, show that actually someone had mentioned her going to the movies. An invitation had come to go to the movies, which is right there, and this was overflow parking. We viewed the footage, and when she comes into the parking lot, she's not looking for a remote place. She almost parks further down, and just so happens that someone pulls out here. So there was a reason for her to be here. There was discussion with other persons who invited her to the movie. We confirmed with the movie theater that the movie name that was mentioned was playing around the time she was here. So she could have gone to the movies. We don't know. We just do not believe, and I can say this with a fact. I don't know whether she committed suicide or not, but I do not believe she was in that car for the entire time. And Chief Gary Lyles says that it appears that she never left that car from 6 p.m. on. I do not believe that. I absolutely, definitively do not believe that she did not leave that car. And we can say that from something as simple as the fact that her bladder was empty. I mean, that's a mom's thing, maybe, but we talk to the medical exam, that's not consistent with someone being in the car that number of hours. So there's a lot of facts that need to be looked into.
Another thing that Reverend Morris uncovered was that in close proximity to Katherine's death, there were some articles circulating on the internet about, this was Japan? In Japan, where a woman had killed 3 former lovers, husbands, whatever, using the same method that was allegedly used here. The reason that's significant, or could be significant, is that it gives folks ideas. So if you were somebody who was saying, all right, we're getting ready to to go down here. It's not going to go well for us if she gets to the supervisor. Here's an idea. And then the fact that one of the persons of interest was a person with background and training in forensics is significant also, that perhaps, just perhaps, it was something that was staged.
Absolutely, that's a very good point. We have inconsistencies like that, as well as video footage catching a vehicle similar to one of the vehicles one of those individuals had in a parking lot and parked in a parking garage. There's a number of major inconsistencies that go with this, and they continue.
When did you receive this electronic note?
These things were discovered on her electronics. They weren't sent. They were on. They just popped up on your screen. They weren't things that were sent out to her. Another thing that Katherine was doing, which was also interesting, was that she had captured data that was proof of the alleged, not proof of the infidelities, and she was sending that into different folders, as if she thought somebody might get into her computer and see that information. She sent it into just numerous school folders for people to look at. We also know that on May the 2nd, two people of interest also contacted Kathy via email, texting, and they were using aliases. And we do know now, after the military did an investigation, that those were two of the women of interest. They were contacting her using aliases, and we don't know why. On May the 2nd, these individuals spent 3 hours at a military installation during duty hours trying to get a hold of my daughter at the University of Maryland campus. The same individuals that are people of interest in our campus.
Reverend Morris,
You got to speak up.
I'm sorry. Reverend Morris, you said that you had an independent investigator look into this. And who is that?
We've received initially retired police chief Jim Davis. I think he might have been with PG County. He's been a great assistance to us. He's with Sand Hill Investigations. Fight Fraud America, Leslie Kim. The forensics, expert forensics, again, in Las Vegas. I've also questioned other officers. Chief Cameron, I think Cameron in St. Mary's County, just getting their overall opinion about standard operating procedures for police. And Chief Cameron shared with us a story that his department had made a mistake like that before. They heard suicide, they investigated purely from a suicide point of view, and it came back that it actually was a murder. And I want to go back to something that Reverend Tillett said about the Googling. The police actually sat here and Googled, according to their own documents, a method of death. It came back as suicide. This is a popular form of suicide in Asian countries. I Googled the same method of death, and I came back with a story from the Japan person who had killed 3 people, similar to the way my daughter died. And they were all ruled suicides. And it wasn't until the 3rd man died, when they couldn't find the car keys in the car, that they realized that they were all 3 murders. And that story surfaced on the internet on April the 12th, 2012. So that story was prevailing as a way of easily staging a murder. As you can hear, it could be a lot of coincidence, but it's a whole lot of things that just would make any parent or any person kind of uneasy about all these things that are coming out. And they're all factual. They're all from their own data, their own files. It's, you know. We've just pushed and done the homework. And a number of individuals, I can't name them all, they've stepped up, and whether it's an expert out there around the country, they stepped up and offered their services pro bono. They weren't told what to look for. They just give me your opinion on what you think of this data.
One last question. It's relevant to the tags on front of their face. Just why today? What is this the final push? And why today have you gathered to make this request of DOJ?
We have been having some meetings. Wide angle, folks. We've been
microphone. A lot of highway noise.
Yeah, that's
the issue.
Of course. We've been having a series of meetings with police and other officials. We had a meeting, the county executive, the new county executive, Steve Shue, and some of his team, police chief, the new police chief, Tim Altamari, and some of his team. We met with them in February. We went to the office of the medical examiner in Baltimore in June, and then I met with the chief and some of his folks as recently as last week for them to kind of report back on their findings based on some of the things that Reverend Morris and her team have discovered. And again, we just want final closure. So we just need questions answered from the tiebreaker, a third independent expert to say, I'm sorry, Reverend Morris, the phone wasn't moving, it was there the whole time. That tells us something. Or if they say, yes, ma'am, the phone was moving and that GPS trail that you had in your evidence, we can corroborate that, that's a concern. That needs to be answered. Persons of interest who were never questioned. Now, I understand one person of interest, some overtures were made to get access to her phone records, and I think she did her best to block those efforts. And if I'm not mistaken, that's the one with the forensics background. So there's too much low-hanging fruit here for us just to say, oh, well, it was a suicide. We just want definitive answers. And after that, we make our peace with it, give it to the Lord, and keep moving. But until we have those definitive answers, we have to question.
Thank him for doing that. And also, I want to just add that, again, a lot of the information we have as a person doing the investigation with myself, I hired experts to do depositions and subpoena. So I was able to get phone records, and the police haven't been able to. So I'm just saying, we got them back in 2012. A search of those records showed that people have defied direct orders for no communication. So those records were out there. Part of our concern has been because of the time elapsed that it makes it harder to get the information we requested as a family.
Now, I made a phone call earlier this morning with my own cell company to ask them how far back you can get cell records. And they said that with a subpoena from law enforcement, they can reprint bills from years ago. So I just asked, so could you get bills from 2012? And she said, yes, we could. So I can't imagine that my company is the only cell company that has that capability. So I'm assuming if mine can do it, the others can too. But we just want to look at, just do cross-references, cross-checks between Kathy's phone, the phones of persons of interest, the phone of Specialist Goodwin, who was over in Afghanistan at the time, and see if there was a flurry of calls between May 4th and May 6th, and whatever calls and communications after May 6th, if there's a text trail somewhere, because you know what they say, that once you put it in print, it's out there somewhere. It doesn't ever completely go away. We just want to see that. And if all of that shows us that there was no real interaction between those folks, that might be something we have to accept, but we want it checked.
How many persons of interest do you believe were involved?
3 or 4.
According to
3 to 4
police.
people. And I want to say, we've been asking since 2012, the police department to at least question individuals. I don't know what the harm is in questioning people or getting their phone records. We've come up with motive through our investigations. We just don't know why it's so hard in the death of this young girl to just do those simple little things, and they still are not done today. It's just mind-boggling why they won't just do that. They haven't been able to. Did I answer your question?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.